Tuesday afternoon, well, early evening. Me and this gentleman here, Jürgen, over from Germany. We're gonna do a quick interview here. He's gonna write some things for the German poker media while we enjoy these beers at the hopefully now world famous Atomic Liquors. Wrapping it up with Jürgen over here. Off he goes just down here. Good meeting you, Jürgen. Any excuse to come to the Atomic Liquors at 6:30 p.m. is a good one in my opinion. Back to the grind now though. And it was only one beer. We couldn't get too irresponsible here because we got to get back to it. Just rolled up to the Rio and there was an accident right here. This van up here just randomly backing into the other car right behind her. That's unfortunate. That's some run bad. Some run bad at the World Series. Here we are again, back in the Brazilian room. It's good to be back here at World Series of Poker headquarters. Right back here, all the fancy schmancy featured table, heavy duty camera gear going on, all that stuff. Not really sure what the tournament is that's going on back there with the final table wrapping up. Just taking it in. Good to be back here again. The plan is to go check out the 510 games and get a session in. It's been a little while since we've had a proper session. Once again, thanks to iGate, but feeling much better. Eyes feeling much better, and just ready to get back after it and back on the grind. So just before we get into the thick of it here, I thought I'd just take the time to answer a question that keeps popping up pretty regularly. The question is, what are my thoughts on online poker? Is it rigged? Which sites are trustworthy, etc. There's lots of misunderstanding about online poker, it seems, and the online poker landscape, which is pretty understandable because there's all these sites that are operating in the U.S. and there's all this online poker legislation that exists in some parts of the country that some companies follow. Other legislation exists in other parts, and other companies follow other parts of that legislation, etc. So it's very confusing for the average poker player and the average online poker customer. Trying to find some better lighting here. Ongoing vlogger issues. All right, but anyway, the biggest question, is online poker rigged? No, I don't think online poker is rigged. It's tough for the human brain to deal with that variance in poker, and when you're playing online, those hands are coming pretty fast and furiously. That just means that the bad beats, the variance, you're gonna run through it. You're gonna run through those ups and downs a lot faster. So no, I don't think online poker is rigged. It's a much faster game online compared to live. So you're gonna see some crazier stuff happen a lot more often, but trust me, we've all seen some crazy stuff happen in the blogs. We've seen the one-outers in the blogs. So it's the exact same game. Same thing that happens live, same thing happens online, just at a much faster rate. Second question is, which sites are trustworthy? So the main sponsor here at the World Series of Poker is 888 Poker. These are the same guys. These are my friends that we did the Barcelona videos together with. It was their event that was running in Barcelona. They are the main sponsor for the World Series of Poker here for, I think, the 3rd year in a row now. So this is obviously a super trustworthy site. They're also the 2nd biggest online poker site in the world. The problem is which I guess it's not really a problem, but they are above the board. They're doing things by the book, and they're only available in New Jersey here in the US. They're obviously available in many other countries around the world, but for us Americans, we don't have quite the choice of sites that the poker playing audience does in some other parts of the world. So there's all these other sites that exist in, you know, pretty much every other state in the U.S. Problem is, these are unregulated sites. So while there might be lots of people playing on these sites, it's all unregulated. They don't actually have a license here in the US to operate. So I can't recommend any of those sites. I wish we could all be in a state that had regulated poker, and it's really disappointing that the online poker legislation is moving so slowly in many states. I remember in California, we thought good things were happening a long time ago. There's been basically very little progress whatsoever. Not much has changed over there. So here we are, same deal. Just waiting for online poker to come back in many states. I'm not going to go about recommending a site that is operating in that very gray area. Not really looking to, you know, direct anybody out there watching this who might not know better to a site where you don't even know whether the funds are segregated properly between player pool money and business money, business operations money. We've been down this path before. Gotten burned before in online poker, so that's about it. All right, that's enough serious business talk. Time to get into the fun stuff. Let's go play some poker. Let's head over to the pavilion room, see what's running, and see what kind of game we can get into. How's it going?
Andrew, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm Mike. I sent you
Mike.
an email about playing 2-5.
Neeme.
What's up?
How many feet for 5, 10, 11?
All right, off and running here. 5-10, no limit hold'em, in for $2,000. In this hand, there's 2 limps, and I looked down at King Jack of clubs in the cutoff and raised it up to $50. Big blind puts in a 3-bet. He makes it $170, and it folds back to me. Price is pretty reasonable, between 3 and 4x. 40% of a royal flush. Can't fold here, so I go ahead and make the call. Flop comes 6-3 deuce, rainbow. This time he bets $225. Pretty close between floating here with the backdoor flush draw and 2 overcards. But versus this particular player, I don't expect him to shut down too often. I have played with him before a little bit, so I just give it up. Maybe slightly weak, but certainly not the worst fold with king high. So in this hand, I look down at ace queen offsuit from under the gun. I raise it up to 30, and we get 4 callers. So we're going 5 ways to a flop of queen 7-5 with 2 diamonds. There's 2 checks, and I put out a bet of $110. We get 2 callers. There's 1 in position and 1 in the blinds. The turn pairs the board, brings another 5. Action checks to me, and I want to keep betting here, I think, to charge any potential draws. But I don't think I need to bet too large since the board is now paired, and I would expect some number of those draws to shut down here. So I put out another bet. I make it $240. The player in position calls, and the player in the blinds folds. Heads up to a river card, which is the 8 of diamonds. This time I check it over to him, and he puts out a bet of $425. Pretty close spot. The price is pretty reasonable. I don't expect him to be making a value bet with too many hands that we can beat. It's a really weird spot though, because we do have the queen of diamonds, and I also don't really expect him, like I said, to be continuing all the time with some flush draws. The turn did bring a backdoor spade draw, so it's possible that he could have flopped some sort of a straight draw and picked up a flush draw to go along with that type of a hand. I would expect him to put in a raise with some really strong hands on the flop, something like 7-5 or pocket 7s. I don't expect him to be continuing too often on the flop with a 5x type hand in a 5-way pot. That seems a little bit like wishful thinking on his part, I would imagine. We certainly don't have one of the best possible hands we could have here. It's more towards the bottom of my range, I would think. Something like King Queen or Queen Jack might be slightly lower as a possibility in our range, but from under the gun, this is towards the bottom of our range. So we can certainly let this one go. But I think curiosity got the better of me here a little bit. I was just really curious to see what he had, expecting him to raise pretty strong hands on the flop and letting go of flush draws. So I go ahead and toss in the call, and unfortunately he rolls over pocket sevens, which I was a little bit surprised by, given how multi-way this flop was, and this player in particular was looking to put in some bets and get some pots building, and just a tendency to flare here and there. So ran into it there. I probably could have found a fold, but having the queen of diamonds and just not finding too many value hands in his range, just decided to call it off.
All right, 30 to go.
So in this hand, I open up Jack 9 of diamonds from early position, truly towards the bottom of my range once again from early position opening ranges. But I don't think it's the worst play in the world. I obviously like to get in there and mix it up with some different hands pre-flop, and this one seems reasonable. We get 4 callers this time, so another 5-way flop. Jack 4 deuce with 2 hearts. Action checks to me, and normally I would be looking to put in a bet with top pair, but I don't expect to get called by too much worse too often here in a 5-way pot. I'm gonna get called by some draws for sure. Those have decent equity as well, and lots of better jacks, obviously. So we have top pair, but it's about the worst kicker that I could possibly have in this exact situation. So I just decided to check it, and the action checks through. Turn is an offsuit 10. This time the small blind leads out for $80. For that price, and with my hand obviously not going anywhere, so I make the call. Heads up to a river card, which is an offsuit 7. And this time the small blind leads out for $165. For that price, just not going to be able to fold here. Once again, a little bit towards the bottom of our range, but price is just too good. So I go ahead and toss the call in, and my opponent rolls over Jack 9. Chop it up.
You gotta play that jump. Take that back and I'll just. I need your good luck. Man, I need my hand back.
So in this hand, the straddle is on. $20 straddle is on. First player to act raises it up to $80. There's 2 callers, and I look down at King Queen offsuit in the small blind. I don't think it's going to be very playable to just flat call here with King Queen offsuit facing all these players, and we're out of position as well. So I think King Queen makes a decent candidate to put in a squeeze with two high cards blocking a lot of decent value hands. So that's what I decided to do. I 3-bet it to $400. The straddler is pretty short stacked here. He only has $20 more on top of the 400, so he goes ahead and jams his $420 stack. The initial raiser folds right away. The first caller of the $80 bet goes into the tank, and then he decides on a call. Second caller folds. So we're going heads up to a side pot here. The flop doesn't come very good for us here. Ace, 8, 5, 2 spades. I don't think there's too much point in me betting here, so I check it over to him, and he pretty quickly bets $600. Just not a good situation here, not flopping too well. I go ahead and make the fold. My opponent, who bet $600, he rolls over pocket 8s for flop to middle set. This straddler rolls over 10-9 of spades, so he's drawing pretty live here. Turn is an offsuit jack, so the straddler picks up even more outs. River is an offsuit ace, so player in middle position ends up with a full house. 10-9 no good, king queen no good. Just not working out too well for us thus far in this session. So this hand is much later in the session, much later at night, or perhaps earlier in the morning. Things are dragging on here. Some players have left the table all the way down to heads up. We're now playing a heads up game with me and a friendly gentleman from Belgium who is ordering 2 beers at a time. Me versus the friendly Belgium, heads up at the Rio. Not exactly playing for a bracelet here, but fun nonetheless. It's always fun to play heads up when the table gets super short-handed, all the way down to 2 players. So in this hand, I look down at 10-9 of diamonds. I make a standard raise to 30. He 3-bets it to 110. I happily make the call. So we're off to a flop, 866 rainbow. He puts out a c-bet of $120. Not gonna go anywhere with 2 overs and a gutter ball, so I make the call. Turn is a queen of spades, which brings in a backdoor flush draw. This time he checks it over to me. Pretty close spot. I think betting is probably best here. We add double gutter, so any jack or 7 makes us a straight. We have 10 high here, so I feel like it would be reasonable to make a stab here and try and take down the pot. If he calls, we can bet again on the river and apply a little bit more pressure. That being said, I just decided to take the free card, try and make a pair or a straight. Just check it back here on the turn. River is no help, offsuit deuce. He checks it again. I feel like I would probably put a bet here on the river some of the time with an 8x type hand. Maybe some other pairs as well, like 9s or 10s. So with that in mind, I go ahead and bet $200. He thinks for a while, and then unfortunately he makes the call. I show and he shows pocket 7s. So not too sure about my line there. I feel like betting turn and then betting river again might have been a little bit better, but just wanted to take the free card and not get blown off of the draw. But 10 high, I think I might have been better suited to just go ahead and put a little bit more pressure on by betting the turn followed by a bet on the river. Either way, just struggling big time here to make any sort of a hand, particularly a winning one, losing hand after hand, and the night has gone on for quite some time now, just not working out for us. Not sure whose idea this was. I assume it was mine because I'm usually the one with these brilliant ideas. Anytime I end up staying super long like this, it just so rarely works out in my favor. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 a.m. or so. Clocking in at a 12 or 13 hour session. Can't even remember really. Maybe even 13 or 14 hours. So we ended up being in the game for a total of $5,000. Cash out 1840 something or 1860 something. Well, I'll let you guys do the math on that one. Not exactly what we had in mind for the comeback session. I think part of the reason why I played such a long session here, aside from the game being decent, it was mostly decent. It was above average for sure. So I wanted to stay in the game for that reason, but I think the other reason is that, you know, missed a week of World Series action and trying to make up for it all at once in one night, one morning, one long session, which is a terrible idea because your eyes should not be looking like this while you're trying to play poker. Not too much more to say at this point, so wrapping it up, come back refreshed. Looking forward to coming back and playing the 888 event, and also looking forward to playing a little cash game, which not exactly sure where, but gonna try and get together with some of you guys again and play a nice casual poker game, which will be really fun because that was for sure one of the highlights of the summer so far. If we can replicate that, perhaps in a new venue, that'll be awesome. All right, signing off to bed. Sigh.